You know this sound. Even if you don't know it, you know it. It sounds like a lullaby. It sounds like a mobile spinning over a crib. And yeah, he's singing that over it. And we have the biggest smile on television, a human golden retriever, a man so relentlessly nice that when the show came out, half the internet decided that he was the antidote to everything wrong with the world.
I think I can get away with that anymore.
Sure you could. Fashion's all about confidence. You know, if I didn't have any confidence, I never would have worn pajamas to my prom and ended up in jail the rest of that night. But you don't want to hear that story, so I ain't gonna tell it.
And this is a cartoon horse in a satirical comedy about Hollywood and the TV show industry. Three completely separate topics: a feel-good sports comedy, an adult cartoon, a band famous for being the saddest men in England, and every one of them is running the exact same con on you. Because here's the thing that nobody tells you about sadness in art. The most devastating stuff almost never looks sad. It's smiling right back at you. Okay, so normally when talking about mental health in movies, films, and TV shows, we talk about the obvious stuff, right? The very special episode, the dramatic monologue where someone's in the bathroom on the floor crying and there's a sad piano playing and you go, oh yes, this is a sad bit here. And that stuff works, don't get me wrong, it works. But it's also kind of easy. It tells you how to feel. It's sadness with a big neon sign saying, sadness this way, come on. What I want to talk about is the opposite to that. The much harder, the sneakier, and the more effective way to do it. It's when sadness isn't hiding behind happiness on the surface. The happy surface is literally made up out of sadness. When the cheerfulness isn't just a mask covering the pain, but the cheerfulness is the pain, just viewed from the front. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. It's a hit comedy about a football coach in a cartoon about a horse. It's baked into the prettiest songs a bunch of depressed men have ever recorded. So that's the video. 3 topics, 1 trick. We're going to go through each one, a whole cast of characters, a whole show's worth of jokes, and a whole discography, and figure out how they pull it off. And at the end, I'm going to say why it works on us so much better than the crying on the bathroom floor version ever could. So, on paper, Ted Lasso is a pretty straightforward thing. An American football coach, the wrong kind of football, has been hired to manage a Premier League team, and he knows nothing about the sport. He's a fish out of water, he's kind, he's corny, he believes in believing. And in 2020, when the show came out, which remember was some of the worst times of our lives, everyone latched onto Ted Lasso as a pure hit of serotonin. Finally, a nice show about a nice man being nice. Except, if you watch it again, you'll realise that the show's not actually about a happy man. It's about a man who decided to make happiness his full-time job, because the alternative is so much worse. His entire marriage throughout season 1 is falling apart. He's 1,000 miles away from his kid, and it's arguable that he took the job in another continent to avoid watching his marriage crumble right in front of his very eyes. And his response to all of that was to crank the optimism up to 11 and never ever let anyone see the gauge. And then the show does this incredible thing. It gives him panic attacks in the middle of the wins, in the middle of the happiest moments he can have. The optimism doesn't protect him. The optimism is causing him. It's causing him to have breakdowns. It's like a pressure system, but all that forced sunshine has to go somewhere, and it's just going sideways when he least expects it, when he can least afford it. And there's this whole arc about Ted starting to see a therapist that the squad brings in, and he absolutely hates it. This warm, open, emotionally generous guy turns cold and mean the second somebody asks him to actually feel something, because Ted's kindness was never the same thing as Ted being okay. It was a wall he built instead of being okay. But here's what takes Ted Lasso from a clever trick to a genuinely great show. It's not just Ted. Look at literally anyone on the team, and you'll find the exact same design. Everybody's biggest personality trait is a bandage over a wound. Roy Kent is known for being the angriest player on the squad. Every line's a snarl, the anger's hilarious, and the swearing, the glaring, and the he's here, he's there, he's every fucking where, Roy Kent chant. But the anger is grief. He's a great player, watching his body give out in front of him. Terrified that when football stops, he'll be nobody. He doesn't know how to be soft, that the people he loves might need something from him he was never taught how to give. And there's a moment between Roy and Jamie, a guy who hates, and Jamie's dad is ripping into him after a match in the locker room, and there's a fight. Roy gives him a hug. He embraces him because underneath the anger, Roy knows what exactly an unloved kid looks like because he was one. And Jamie Tartt is comic relief for a season and a half, the arrogant pretty boy striker whose whole bit is being in love with himself. Except arrogance isn't a performance. It's the armor of a kid raised by a father who only showed up to tell him when he wasn't good enough. The strutting confidence is a 9-year-old still trying to get his dad's approval, knowing he's never going to get it. Rebecca is the owner of the squad, of the team, and she hires Ted to sabotage the club. Pure revenge against her cheating ex-husband. That's her whole introduction. And it slowly comes out of her poise and the power suits and the scar tissue over a woman who is made to feel small for so many years and is furious about it. And underneath the fury is just someone who wants to be loved without being humiliated for it. And Nate the Wonder Kid, as he's called himself. He's one of the sweetest people on the show in the beginning, until we follow what happens when someone's been overlooked their entire lives, gets a bit of validation and can't regulate it. His need to be seen curdles into cruelty. He becomes a villain, and the tragedy is you understand exactly how he got there. The show weaponizes its own genre. You go in for a feel-good sports comedy, and the feel-good sports comedy turns out to be a precise, tender group portrait of people using humor, arrogance, anger, arrogance, poise, and relentless positivity to grieve their lives. Comedy and sadness are the same material, and it never stops being funny. It doesn't turn into a different show halfway through. You're just laughing with the room the entire time. You just didn't know you were doing it. So if Ted Lasso is hiding sadness in its characters, BoJack Horseman is hiding it in the entire genre, in the entire format itself. Because look at the show, it's a cartoon, the colours are bright, there are talking animals everywhere, the background is packed with the dumbest and most wonderful visual puns that's been committed to television, and there's a guy named Vincent Adelman, who's obviously 3 kids in a trench coat, and everyone just accepts it, and it looks like it should be aired right after school. And it's about this washed-up sitcom star, a guy who was famous in the 90s, had his own family show, and the whole thing was wrapped in this cozy, familiar TV comfort food shell, and that shell is a delivery system. Because the actual subject of the BoJack Horseman show is depression. Real depression. And the kind that doesn't just resolve in a season, the kind that hurts everyone around you, the kind you can't pin on anybody else. And the show knows that if it came to you as a depression drama, you'd put your guard up, you would brace, you would not watch it realistically. So instead it makes you laugh for 20 minutes. And then, right then, when your guard is all the way down, it hits you with something so bleak, so honest about self-loathing that people had to pause the entire episode just to kind of sit and think it through. And the show keeps finding new formal ways to do it. Which makes it more than a gimmick. It doesn't just alternate between jokes and sadness. It bends the entire format around the feeling. And there's an almost wordless episode set underwater where BoJack can't speak, he can't connect, he just drifts in this beautiful, muffled world that is he's failing to say the one thing that matters. The comedy format goes silent to show what isolation actually feels like from the inside. There's also an episode of BoJack where he's giving a eulogy. It's one unbroken monologue. It's his mother's funeral. And he's spiraling in real time, trying to wring out meaning out of a parent who gave him nothing. He has no jokes to hide behind. It's just a man at a podium dying inside, in front of everyone, and it was horrid. And here's a through line that ties all of the 6 seasons together. BoJack keeps waiting for that final thing. BoJack keeps waiting for the thing that ruined his life to reveal itself. The bad childhood, the industry, the addiction, the people who wronged him. He wants a villain. He wants someone to blame. And slowly but patiently, over 6 years, the show gave him an answer. The answer he's been dreading, because there's a common denominator here. In every relationship, he's torched it. Every life he's damaged. Everyone tried to love him and he left worse off. It's him. It's always him. He's the problem. And that's generally an unbearable thing to say to an audience. Sometimes the reason your life is so broken is you, and no amount of trauma gets you out of doing the work anyway. You can't open a show with that. Nobody will watch it. But you can spend 6 years earning it, one horse pun at a time, until people love this character so much they'll just sit still for the worst truth errors. Same colours, same jokes, same talking horse. The surface never changed. You just finally understood what it's for. So Ted Lasso hides it in the people, BoJack Horseman hides it in the genre, and Radiohead? They hide it in the music itself, down to the actual nose. If you listen to No Surprises, it opens with that glockenspiel, a little kid's toy. It's in a major key, so it's nice and warm. It generally sounds like something you would play to a baby to help it fall asleep. Everything your ear tells you says this is a gentle, comforting, safe little song, and Tom York is singing about a heart that's full up like a landfill, a job that slowly kills you, a quiet carbon monoxide kind of surrender. He's described the song himself as a fucked up nursery rhyme. And that's what I find insane in the best possible way. This wasn't accidental, it was on purpose. The band spent hours dialing in a toy-like glockenspiel tone, chasing that prettiness, and precisely because it made the words underneath cut so much deeper. York has said that the song only works if you play it slow and fragile, right on the edge of hamming it up without ever tipping over. And it's not a one-off. Their entire discography has the same method. Once you hear it, the whole catalogue rearranges itself in front of you. Take Karma Police, for example. Musically, it's almost a folk song, a simple, pretty piano and acoustic thing that people happily sing along to. It started out as an inside joke on tour. When they heard someone in the band was being a jerk, they would warn each other by saying, "Oh, the Karma Police were coming." And then that little joke becomes this cold, eerie meditation on control and paranoia and losing yourself. For a minute there, I lost myself. The prettier and the more singable it is, the more unsettling is the thing that you're actually singing. Or Fake Plastic Trees, one of my favourites. Gorgeous, aching, one of the most beautiful songs they've ever wrote. So beautiful, it literally soundtracks a scene in Clueless, and here's a detail that stopped me cold. York came out with a very lonely, drunken evening and a breakdown of sorts. He wrote those devastating lyrics, and then he laughed. He thought they were funny. Sit with that, because it's a whole thesis in one anecdote. The same night, the same breath, the same breakdown, and laugh. Not one hiding the other. Both at once, because that's how it actually is, isn't it? You've laughed at a funeral, you've cried at the wedding, you've had feelings that were never in separate rooms. And you already know that this feeling from your own life. The bounciest song at a party turns out to be about a breakup. The song you've danced to for a year before you actually heard it, that gap between how it feels and what it means, that gap is where all of this lives. Radiohead does it more deliberately and more beautifully than almost anyone else. They didn't write a song about drowning. They made a song feel like drowning in a warm bath. And that's so much worse in the great way possible. So here's what I keep coming back to. A whole football team, a whole cartoon, a whole discography, 3 totally different mediums, dozens of different characters and songs, all making the same choice. And all refusing to just point to the neon sign at the sadness, all doing it in the harder way on purpose. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I think they understood the same thing about us. When something announces itself as sad, we armor up, it's automatic. When we know the sad part is coming, so we brace, we keep a little distance, we let it happen to someone else on screen. The neon sign gives us time to protect ourselves. But when the sadness shows up wearing a smile, when it's a biscuit-bearing coach, a swearing football, or a cartoon horse, or a lullaby with a glockenspiel, we don't brace, we let it right in. We're laughing, we're humming along. And by the time it turns out to be true, it's already inside of us, and there's nowhere left to put the armor because we never knew we needed it. And that's the trick. That's the whole trick. It's not that these works are secretly sad, it's like there's a hidden true version underneath a fake happy one. It's that they refuse to let you pull the joy and pain apart, because in real life you can't either. The funniest person in the room is often holding the most in. The kindest person you know is fighting something they'll never mention. Roy's anger is love with nowhere to go. Jamie's ego is a little boy asking his dad to look at him. Ted's sunshine is grief in a windbreaker, and the prettiest song on the record is a plea for help you can hum in the shower. These artists aren't hiding sadness under happiness. They're telling you the most honest thing there is. But the two were never really separate to begin with. So the next time something makes you smile, a show, a joke, a character you can't get enough of, or a song you can't stop humming, maybe sit with it for a second and ask yourself, what's it made out of? Because the good stuff, the stuff that stays lodged in you for years, is usually smiling at you and through something all at once. A football coach who won't stop believing, a cartoon horse who finally ran out of people to blame, and the saddest band in England writing lullabies about drowning. They all figured out the same thing. The happiest sad song isn't a contradiction. It might be the most honest music there is. If a piece of media has ever done this to you, snuck past your guard, made you feel something you weren't braced for, I really want to hear it. Drop something in the comments. Join the Discord. Tell me about it. I want to read it. I want to hear your stories. And because the best ones are honestly how I find out half stuff I'm going to be making videos about anyway. And if you like taking something and you love digging around underneath it, that's the whole channel. Subscribing genuinely helps out, as it allows me to reach more people, and it means the next one that lands in your feed is for you. Just no alarms, no surprises.